Welcome to the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, and today we're sitting down with Jeff Williams. Jeff is a serial entrepreneur and student of leadership and social transformation. He's the founder and CEO of Absolute Results in Canada, and he has a passion for helping business leaders create and scale business systems that align with their values. In this episode, we'll be discussing practical ways on how to build the kingdom through your business. And we'll talk about Jeff's newest book release, a 40-day devotional entitled The Double-Edged Sword, Cutting to the Heart of Your Business and Your Life. So lean in, leaders, and let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. I'm your host, Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Vertical Church, aka Iglesia Vertical in South Florida, where we are one church, two languages. And I'm your host, where we talk to amazing leaders who are impacting globally with their leadership insights, their leadership experience, their leadership passions. And today we're sitting down with Jeff Williams. Jeff, it is so good to have you on the AVAIL podcast. How are you feeling?
Oh, it's great to be with you here today and the opportunity to share with the people that are part of your community about the kingdom and bringing the kingdom into the marketplace.
Yeah, I love this. I'm really excited about this conversation. AVAIL, hey, everybody, you're going to love this conversation, especially if you have a heart for leadership, a heart for the marketplace, and a heart for bringing the kingdom to your business and your marketplace. Before we jump into the conversation, we're also going to talk about your most recent book, which I think is a great resource for many people. Can you share a little bit about yourself, Jeff? A little bit about yourself, so we can understand where this passion comes from.
You know what? Gosh, ever since I was a child, I wanted to serve God, but I wasn't sure how. Over time, I began to realize it wasn't a traditional ministry role I was called to, but I was called to business. I had this gift. I was called to the marketplace. And so I went on this whole journey of, from chasing success to significance to say, what is the reason for this gift God's given me? And how do I bring the kingdom of heaven into the marketplace, right, through my business? And so, yeah, you're right. I've just been able to publish a book. It's a 40-day devotional with leadership lessons for business leaders of faith or not of faith, and it's been a pleasure just to share what I've learned, because it's a never-ending journey of learning and growing.
Yeah, I one of the things that intrigued me when I was preparing for this podcast, reading a little bit, and then even talking with you, is specifically you. I think maybe it's kind of where you started, but you have a love for the retail car business, and again, from somebody who's not in the car business, or the business world per se, hearing a man who has a deep passion for the kingdom and a man of faith in the car business is an interesting. I want to hear more about that and more about how this was all birthed in you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I got in the car business like most people, as a second chance or a third chance opportunity. Almost no one grows up and says, hey, I want to sell cars or I want to be in the car business, right? Unless maybe your parents own a car dealership. So I just ended up, like I say, most people get kicked out, thrown out, drop out of their dream job, and they end up in the car business temporarily, and it becomes their second chance or their best chance. And as I got involved in it, I just loved the fact that, it was a business of second chances. It was free enterprise at its core. You could start at the bottom, and if you worked hard and learned the skills, you could rise to the top. It provided an opportunity to serve people. And right now, Virgil, it's going through so much disruption. It's a beautiful time for the industry to be transformed.
I love that, because it helps me think we need to help people. I'm a pastor, and I need to help the people that are part of my church community understand that they are called to where they are. There are people that are in the car industry. There are people that are in business. There are people that are in education. There are people that are in media and communications. One of the things that really stands out to me is your heart for making a connection between the kingdom and your business and the kingdom. I think there's been perspective throughout the years. I've heard a lot of perspectives on this, but talk to us a little bit about what you've learned and what you see in that connection.
Sure. Well, as a business leader, someone starting a business, certainly, and I started literally with myself in my friend's garage as my first office 27 years ago. So in the beginning, you're just chasing survival and then a little bit of stability, and then a little bit of success, right? And when you get to that level, that plateau of success, something in me wasn't satisfied. I was called for more, designed to do more, right? And in that journey, I began to seek out Christian leaders. Christian leaders like John Maxwell came into my life personally and gave me a vision for how do I build a business for the kingdom. That was kind of step one, right? And some of those things are
Hmm.
obvious, Virgil. I can be extravagantly generous if I'm successful. And isn't it awesome being able to do that? What Maxwell taught me is I could take my kingdom gift and bring it to the charities. Don't just give money, give yourself. And he asked me to come to Guatemala and Paraguay and help build out the transformation plan. And so I could fund those beautiful initiatives, but I could also be involved in it. And so, I think that first step is saying, okay, there's more than success. And I call that significance, right? How's my life
Uh-huh.
not defined
Mhm.
by what I build or get, but what I give? And that was kind of that first step of the two steps there. And that first season was super rewarding and still is, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what it takes for a person to be able to make that jump or that transition, because I think it's very easy and human to say I want to be successful. But then there's a point where you feel okay, even if you taste some levels of success, you kind of feel, but there's got to be something more. I would love for you to unpack some thoughts about that. I mean, about that jump from being successful to experiencing significance, because I think a lot of people maybe have had a challenge getting from one to the other.
Sure. Well, one principle I learned years ago that really helped me is most people never know the difference between more and enough. Right.
Mm,
And I think that's something to have a prayerful conversation with God about. What is my number? What is enough? Am I content? In other words, do I desire what I already have? Right.
right.
That's what our spirit should be. Now, once you have that and you have that contentment, you say, okay, but God's given me this gift I need to steward. There's a world that's full of hurt out there that, God, then you know what? I'm comfortable with what I have. Now, how can I pour my life into something greater than myself? Right. And that's that significant piece. And start to measure my life by what I'm able to give, not what I have. So, when you have that level of success, but there's that emptiness inside. I was at that crossroads in 2013. I had some huge success in my company, but I was like, is this all it's for? It's got to be more than that. And
Mm,
that's when John Maxwell came in my life and said, Jeff, build a business for the kingdom and then partner with these ministries and pour a piece of yourself and your gift into them to help grow and scale. Right. And then
mm,
and part of that for
yeah.
me was I got to bring this kingdom into my company, right? And so I began to bring the kingdom into my company as part of this significance journey. I brought so many leaders down to Guatemala and Paraguay to be part of these movements. I funded work with a huge mission in Guatemala and sent 200 staff on a mission trip to build homes and rescue dying babies. So I began to say that how do I
Mm.
bring the kingdom into my company?
Whew. It I want to try to put some handles for some Christian business leaders who are leaning in right now. Um, let's say there's a business leader or business leaders that they're coming to you, Jeff, and they're saying, "Hey, we're inspired by your story. We're inspired by how you've been able to bring the kingdom to your business. What are some initial steps or some initial thoughts of where a business person can start, right? Because we can't go from A to Z. We have to kind of go from A to B. What are some practical steps that a Christian business leader might be able to say, Here's where I could start in making a connection of bringing the kingdom to their business."
Sure. So I think you start by what you have. You look at what you have. You look at your company and your employees and your people. You look at the people in the world around you and go, where is a burden on my heart? Where are some things that oh my goodness, man, these things need to be made right? Who are the people God's brought into my life that I need to invest
Mm,
in? Right. So you make that decision to go, okay, I'm going to pour out. I'm going to pour out into my business. I'm going to pour out into ministries around me and into my marketplace. And where do I begin? And don't look for perfect opportunities. Success comes when you
nice.
embrace imperfect opportunities.
I love that. I love that. Can you give an example? Did you ever look for perfect opportunities at one point in your journey?
I'm less risk adverse. So I'm on the opposite spectrum, right? Where I see opportunities and like, oh my goodness, and I have to slow down and go, where is it going? Where's the biggest return going to be for the kingdom? So, as I was sharing, Virgil, it's a journey from success to okay, and now I want to measure myself and my impact by what I give significance. But then there was a second stage for me, where I said it's
Mm,
great to be able to give. It's great to be a good employer and provide well for my people. It's great to have good products and services. But hey, people in the world do that. There's lots of good secular companies with secular leaders that are treating their people well, that are benefiting
right.
society, right? That are funding
Hmm.
charities. What's unique in my
Hmm.
kingdom call? And that's when I begin to get the revelation that my call was to actually bring transformation through my business. I said, oh my goodness, I'm in the car business. And it's great to save lives in Guatemala. It's great to train leaders internationally on values. But I've got an industry that's broken. God, how can I bring transformation to the car business? This is where you've planted me. The kingdom is
Hmm.
to come here into the auto industry. And I went on that journey, and God revealed a couple keys to me. But I was seeking. There was an aching in me that says, "Hey, how do I transform this industry? I'm in it for a reason, not just to be an ATM for other ministries, but my calling to transform my industry is just as noble."
I love that. I think this is the kind of inspiration that many Christian leaders need to hear. Many business people need to hear because there is a calling and there is purpose and significance. Speaking, you were talking about obviously the initial jump is going from success to significance. Then there's the jump from significance to transformation. Can you share maybe a couple of stories? You've already mentioned a few things, but a couple of stories of transformational leaders that are impacting the marketplace. I mean, through their business, right? Maybe it's people that we haven't heard about, but you've been able to see it in action. And you can give us a feel and a taste of what it looks like. For example, who would have thought somebody who's in the automotive industry, the car business, is seeking to connect people with the kingdom? That's not common. That's pretty uncommon. Can you share a few stories like that?
Sure. Well, let me just share a little step first, if you don't mind, and then I'll share some stories of some
Yes.
of my friends and leaders I've been blessed to meet in my journey. So when I was on this journey of going, okay, from significance to transformation, how do I bring transformation to the retail car business? I heard a podcast. I think it was Andy Stanley, and he said, if you want to transform an industry, find the one thing that cannot be changed, just can't be changed. But if it could be changed, would change everything, and then devote your life to changing that one thing. So I thought about the retail car business. Is there one thing that's wrong with the industry that can't be changed? But if it could be changed, would change everything. And it hit me. Oh my goodness. The retail car business measures its success based on how much value it extracts from every single transaction. That's the measure of success. How many cars did we sell? How much gross profit did we make? Hero to zero. And we measure ourselves and even value our companies based on that. But what if it could measure its success by the value it adds versus extracts? Oh my goodness, that one thing would change everything. So I went on a journey of saying, how do I influence the industry to be focused around adding value, not extracting value? That became my one thing to
Mm.
chase. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and I think that type of mentality is the type of mentality that can boost people into a whole nother level of impact and influence. You were mentioning that you have some friends
Absolutely.
and of other stories that are
Absolutely.
like this. Can you share some
I
of
think
those?
about my friend Steve Chalk in the UK, who 30 odd years ago had a passion to reach young people and said the only way I can reach them is if I run a school because I'm in their life 5 days a week. And he said, what's the one thing wrong with schools? They're not caring communities. They focus on the grades and academics, but not the child and the child's family. And he was through a series of God experiences and some things that happened. He was given a failing school, and he then took, in his words, the fruit of the Spirit as the ethos and said, we're going to create the most caring community we can. And it excelled. And now he has 54 of these
Mm.
schools. And the Queen, before she passed, just signed a decree to give his charity, a prison, a youth prison to run. I think of my
Mm-hmm.
friend Charles in New Zealand, who at 29 years old had this burden. He was a developer and an engineer. Cities are designed not to create community, but they create isolation. They segregate classes. And he had this vision to be a city builder and start a $1 billion project to build a city that would create community and bring glory to God. Oh, that's a big
Hmm.
dream, right? So I think of some of those leaders that I've had. I think of someone I met recently that has a vision to change charitable giving in New Zealand, a gentleman named Rohan, and how are charitable funds raised and distributed. And he created this vehicle where business leaders could pay forward their services funded by their clients. He's changing, he's found a one thing, but he's also changing a business system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Go into that more. I think I remember in our conversation, you were saying how for true transformation, there really has to be a building of systems, a recreating of systems.
Yeah, 100%. So the first couple of years when I had this revelation about adding value, not extracting value, I said, okay, yeah, I rewrote all of our training material that everything was focused on adding value. I created ways that we could celebrate how much value I added to a client. And that was good. I felt like I was getting somewhere with my purpose, Virgil. But then about 2 years
Mm-hmm.
in, 2020 happened, the global financial crisis, and I had 170 trainers all around the world, and they all had to come home, and our revenue shut down. And all of a sudden, I was loaning the business millions of dollars to make sure we got through. And then I had to really ask,
Wow.
am I really making a transformational impact? Or am I just a Band-Aid? And
Hmm.
then it hit me, the system is broken. All right, I can go in and teach adding value, but if they get compensated, rewarded, celebrated when I leave on extracting value, I'm not going to have a long-term impact. And I thought, oh my goodness, how can I change the system? And then it hit me. What if instead of measuring success based on transactional, how much value you extract per transaction, you could actually measure success on multiples of future transactions? What if I could say the goal is not to sell you one car, I want to sell you 3 cars and sell your car 3 times? What if I could create a portfolio-centric approach where I would treat you in such a way that the probability, scientifically proven with data, that you would come back, you would renew, I'd retain you and earn more money from you over time? The customer lifetime
Hmm.
value became the holy grail, not the transactional gross profit value.
Hmm.
Does that make
I
sense?
love it. Yes,
Communication
it does. It
values itself. And so I've got
mm-hmm.
a
It
technology
challenge.
company, and now I'm on this journey of actually helping dealers create a portfolio-centric approach. And I'm creating science and data. And hopefully one day, if I can change that dealerships are valued not on what they extract in a short-term transactional profit, but the future business they've guaranteed through their what I would call noble or righteous ways of commerce and their system
Mm-hmm.
processes, that could be transformational. That could change a system.
Yeah. True transformation requires changing the systems. One of the things that I love in talking with you, Jeff, is you exude passion for what you do, and I think part of that is also saying I want to put resources in other people's hands. I want to take what's in me and share it. I'd love to talk about your most recent book. It's called The Double-Edged Sword: Cutting to the Heart of Your Business and Your Life. Talk to us about the heart behind this book.
Oh my goodness. I've learned so much through success and through pain. And, in many ways, my business, one of the reasons I stay engaged, it's an ongoing crucible for me to learn and grow and scale, right? Because every day there are new opportunities and challenges, especially with a global company. And so this challenge allows me to keep learning, and as you are and many leaders are, I'm an avid reader and the rest of that and study. But, I thought I need to start sharing these things I've learned with other people. Right. And so I put that 40-day devotional together with 40 business lessons or leadership lessons categorized around generosity in business, growth in business, handling people, higher thinking, teamwork, things like that. Right. And I've got a website, leadershipworthliving.com, where I'm sharing on a weekly basis new lessons that I've learned. And for me, it's an
Hmm.
opportunity to connect with other leaders, because when I get around a Steve Chalk, a Rohan, I get around Charles Ma, I get around people, Carlos Vargas from Hope of Life, who transformed the concept of international charitable giving to don't just give money, come and serve and see and come back.
Hmm.
When I spend time with those leaders, I learn so much. We need friends. It's often been said you need an inner circle and you need an outer circle, right? And on this transformational journey,
Hmm.
we all need that. So yes, it's about sharing, but it's also about connecting.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is I can see a lot of things that can happen with this book. Who do you think is a good target audience? Who do you think that this is a good book for? And what can they do with it? I mean, is this something that a leader could take some of his maybe staff team with, or executive leadership with, and share some of the lessons? Talk to us about who you want to have this book in their hands.
You know what? I think leaders of faith, I think there's two audiences. There's marketplace leaders that I think will read it and they'll identify with some of the questions. There'll be some valuable insights and principles they can apply to their business and to their personal life. So for a leader in
Mhm.
business or an aspiring business leader, read it and allow it to speak to you, right? Now, for
Mhm.
a ministry leader in more of a traditional ministry or church format, I'd encourage them to read it as well and go, is there a message here that there's business leaders in my community that I could share this with,
Mm.
that this would resonate and add value, or maybe they'd want to connect with Jeff and carry on that conversation of how do we bring the kingdom of heaven to earth through our industries, through our businesses, making our businesses of engines of transformation.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because I'm looking at some I'm looking at the table of contents at some of the sections. There's different parts, right? Like the first couple of days, achieving success in business. The part two, engaging people in business. Then there's part three, faith in business. And the thought came to my mind. And I'm just curious about this thought. But have you ever ran into somebody that maybe didn't appreciate your faith in a business conversation or in the context of the marketplace? I mean, those things can happen. I'm curious about that.
Sure. Well, I remember when I first created this concept called sales leadership, and I defined it as work hard, think right, and be a good person. And overall, even the secular dealerships I would train this concept in, it resonated. But every once in a while, someone would say, be a good person. That's pretty subjective, isn't it? Right? And I remember it, and it was just like that question. It was like one of those mic drop questions, and a response came to me. I'm not sure where. I just said, you know what? It is subjective. Would you mind if I share you my definition of being a good person? I said, at the end
Mm,
of the day, when you look back on your day and you took more than you gave and you sleep well, you're not a good person. But at the
mm.
end of the day, when you look back on your day and you gave more than you took and you sleep
I
well,
like that.
you are a good person. So you decide.
Woo. I like that.
and
I like that.
there is something happening right now for all the doom and gloom about the lack of morality, which is true, and the deterioration of society. There are people out there of all faith or not faith, and there's a righteousness in them. There's a righteous cause in them. And, Virgil, I think
Hmm.
that's what I find missing in a lot of the traditional marketplace ministry teaching. And there's some great teaching out there. But you see, my goal isn't to
Hmm.
make my business a church or to bring the church into my business, right? My business is to bring the kingdom, right, into the industry. So I don't want a
Yeah.
business full of Christians, right? There's
Hmm.
so many people out there that don't share our faith or faith, but there's a righteous cause in their soul. And when you engage them in kingdom initiatives, right, it fits
Hmm.
something in
Hmm.
and then gives you the opportunity to share your why as a person of faith. And your message has credibility, and then it transforms. So those concepts, the whole idea of how do you identify what's the one thing that's wrong that cause and change it? How do you disciple up? Maxwell taught me
Hmm.
years ago, if we want to see transformation, we have to disciple up, not just disciple down. And he would say, let's pray that God gives us favor with the apostle Pauls of the world. And he wouldn't go to a country for a transformational movement unless the president asked him to come, right? And get a meeting
Mm.
with that president.
Yeah.
So we need influence in our industries. That's why I laughingly say, where are the Christian Elon Musks, right? That are disrupting industries, that are passionate because they believe they have a better way and they have a righteous cause, right? And so, my goodness, I don't have all the answers, but it's an amazing journey to seek God and say, God, open doors. God will keep opening the doors.
That's good. Have you seen this passion that you have? How has it translated into you being the lead leader of your organization, right? because one thing is we're impacting the people that we're doing business with or the clients that we're serving. But how about the way you're leading your team, the way you're leading your staff, your lead leaders, your executive leaders? Have you seen that impact?
Oh, for sure I have. No, I'm very blessed that my executive team are people that share my values. I chose them and put them there for that reason. And I guess when you're the owner or the vast majority owner of your businesses, you've got some freedom to be who you are. The business isn't a democracy, right? Now, that doesn't mean I don't engage my
Yeah.
leaders. I talk about that in the book because they provide guardrails to me. But when I'm confident
Hmm.
about what I have in my message, and I'm kind of the ambassador, spokesperson, CEO of the company, so I'm creating the new ideas and the new content, and I'm out in the field connecting the dots. Because when you connect the dots out in the
Hmm.
field and you go, oh my goodness, there's a better way there, there's a system way, there's a word track and a process to engage customers more effectively there, and you're sharing that, it just attracts. The doors, even the last couple of years, as the markets have started to reopen up after COVID and the inventory shortage, the doors for me to speak to CEOs and leaders of some of the largest auto groups around the world, not to mention manufacturers, are opening up. And I share the message that I've been just fine tuning in the market, in the field, and it resonates, it resonates, it resonates. I go, thank you, God. Thank you, God. There's a piece. There's a piece. It's building credibility. It's got a more noble, higher purpose. It's looking past today to tomorrow.
Yeah. I love that. It's funny how you've mentioned a couple times key people that have been a part of your journey, people like John Maxwell, right? And other people that maybe have been a part of your journey. Do you find yourself now that you're in the position of being a key person in someone else's journey?
Yes, I'm finding, people come to me for ideas, for mentorship, for advice. I just always want to take the position, not as a mentor, but as a friend, because we're all on a journey together.
Mm.
And I have young entrepreneurs reach out or people in different industries, and I learn just as much from them by spending time with them. So, we're friends, we are, and we're on a journey together, and God will reveal things to us as we move ahead on this journey. But what specifically catches me is when I see someone that isn't just wanting to do great things. That's wonderful. Or wanting to build a bigger
Mhm.
enterprise or ministry or business. That's wonderful, right? But they have a transformational burden, I call it, right? This thing
Mm.
that keeps them up at night that goes, this is a wrong that must be righted. It often comes out of their pain, right? But they have this thing,
Mhm.
and you combine that burden, with someone who's been gifted, I call it a 10 talent leader with certain gifts. And if they have the right environment, wow, wow, because we need friends.
Mm.
And it's
100%.
hard when you're a business leader. It's lonely. Who do you talk to?
Mm.
Who do you talk to about
Mhm.
decisions about your company when you're even questioning why you're doing what you're doing or canceling a product or service that is making money, but it's not transformational? I mean, that's why you have an inner circle
Hmm.
and outer circle, right? Your inner circle of people that run your business, you trust to run your operations, to run alongside you.
Hmm.
But then you need an outer circle who have no agenda, right? They're not, if you canceled
Mhm.
a product that was your highest gross profit product or big part of your revenue, they wouldn't be worrying about their job, right? They're people that share your
Mhm.
values, that have fruit in their life and success in their life, and that God places in your life. So you need that inner circle to run your enterprise and business, but you need that outer circle of friends to come alongside you and you can bear your heart
Mm.
with and you can seek God together
Mm.
with.
That's so good. That's so good.
Where
I have a couple of questions, kind of lightning round type questions, kind of quick responses, just off the cuff. Are you game? Are you okay
I
with
am,
that,
you
Jeff?
bet, fire away.
All right. So some of them will be a little more practical, and then maybe some of them will be a little more, personal. Practical. What is an online resource that is helping you, whether it's an app or whether it's a resource online that's helping you with your leadership, admin, or personal.
Sure. Well, two podcasts I listen to are the Andy Stanley Leadership Podcast and the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast.
Hmm.
Those are two I listen to all the time, right?
Very good. Very good. What is a book that's really just hit home with you in recent times that you think might be helpful for some other business and leaders out there?
Well, there was a book called The Church in the Workplace by, I believe it was C. Peter Wagner. That was a transformational, pivotal book for me.
I love it. Love it. What makes you laugh?
Oh, my goodness. I think when when God shows up in an unexpected way, when I see my people flourish, when I see my 2.5-year-old boy, I'm 55 and I have a 2.5-year-old, laugh and giggle and throw him in the air. When my people call me because they've had a huge victory and a success, when I see a life that's changed and transformed and I go, God, only God. And I got to play a little role in that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. What breaks your heart?
Pardon me?
What breaks your heart?
Oh, what breaks my heart more than anything is when I see people that are trapped in broken systems. I see good people, for example, wanting to be good and add value in the car business, but they're trapped in a broken system. And ultimately, they either become part of that system, right? They conform, or they become a casualty.
Mm-hmm.
And going, oh my goodness, there is a better way. But people that are trapped, that want to do good.
Yeah. As you kind of look ahead to the future, what concerns you?
Here's what concerns me. I see a lot of successful Christian business leaders my age, in their 50s, right? And they're retiring, right? And hey, I get it. I've worked hard. I've been through some tough years recently with COVID. There's times I just wanted to say, you know what? Why don't I just cash out, put my money in a charitable trust? I can give 6 figures away, 7 figures every year, get lots of accolades, have a pretty comfortable life.
Mm.
But oh my goodness, that's not what I was made for. What would it look like, Virgil, if the world was overpopulated with wise, mature, talented, experienced, righteously ethical Christian business leaders in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? That were now investing in the next generation, their wealth, their wisdom, their purpose, their passion, and they were even more productive in those later years than the earliest years because they knew they had a responsibility and a call to pay it forward. And instead of dialing back, they dialed up.
I like that. Obviously, that's kind of a call to veteran, experienced, and seasoned leaders. Let me finish off this lightning round with this question. What's the message you want to give to young leaders, to leaders who are today maybe in their 20s and they're at the beginning of their journey, and you have an opportunity to bring your voice and insight and advice to them?
Oh my goodness, there's so much, my friend, but be patient. You have a long life ahead. God will guide your steps. And always remember this. If you're aspiring to business, the measure of a business isn't how big it is, isn't how profitable it is. There's lots of big, empty companies. It's how innovative it is. It's how transformational it is in its industry, the positive, lasting impact and change that it brings.
Yes, sir. I hope you've been encouraged by this episode, everybody, of the AVAIL podcast. Remember, for more resources and getting his book, The Double-Edged Sword, and just connecting more and understanding more of what Jeff has to offer, go to leadershipworthliving.com. leadershipworthliving.com. Again, his most recent book, The Double-Edged Sword, Cutting to the Heart of Your Business and Your Life. It's 40 lessons that are bite-sized that you can go through one day at a time and probably walk through with some of your leaders. Want to highly encourage that. On behalf of AVAIL, my name is Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Vertical Church, your host right here on the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep, talk about leadership every single week. A new episode pops out with amazing leaders who are making an impact. Thanks for leading well, and we'll catch you next time right here on the AVAIL podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the AVAIL podcast with our guest, Jeff Williams. You can find out more about Jeff and you can get his book by going to leadershipworthliving.com. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com. And make sure to claim your free trial subscription of the AVAIL Journal at availjournal.com. As always, I'm your AVAIL podcast host, Virgil Sierra. Muchas gracias. Thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here at the AVAIL podcast.